Welcome back to a live episode of Buckeye Talk presented by Modelo. It's been something we've been holding on to here for a couple of weeks here while we were finalizing some things, and it officially starts today. The podcast has a sponsor. Stefan, you've been bought. How does it feel to have been bought? There was a price for you, apparently.
Yeah, it feels great because if you're gonna get a sponsor, if you're gonna get sponsored by someone, there is no better route to go than one of your favorite beers. So I have had plenty of Modelo's in my life, and I'm very proud of that. And I am even more proud that we get to work with them. We're really excited about this. It's definitely a reflection of what Buckeye Talk has done to this point. Obviously, a big reflection of what Steven has done. Right, he's kind of been the stabilizing force since Gillis and I have joined over the course of the last 2-3 years. So really a cool thing for Steven, but also for the both of us as well to be part of this. Really excited about this partnership and working with Modelo. And it's football season. Like, it's here. Like, Saturday is week 0 games. So like, if the combination of football and some Modelo's doesn't get you going, then maybe this isn't the right podcast for you.
Gillis, you were bought with beer. Are you proud? Is the person who showed up at Ohio University as an 18-year-old kid excited to get into the sports journalism world? Will he be proud of this moment?
I'm pretty sure this is what my degree says on the side next to the wall. I went to Ohio University. It's exciting. It's fun. It's football. Like we're like, I'm gonna do the athlete speech where you go into the Hall of Fame where you could credit the coaches and no, I'm gonna credit the listeners of Buckeye Talk and the fans of Buckeye Talk and the people that watch and comment and subscribe and everything like that, because this is why this is happening, and this is why that we're here, and we wouldn't be here if people didn't care. So I'm very excited by that. I'm very happy that we have kind of reached this point. But the cool thing is, it's the same old Buckeye Talk podcast. We're all going to get.
That's not true. I've changed. I've completely changed.
I don't know about that, because we're all still going to get mad at each other, and I'm still rocking minor league baseball hats on our live shows. So it's basically the same thing as what we've been doing. We just have a brand spanking wonderful new sponsor.
Yeah, I've changed. I'm a whole different person. I've completely forgot everything that was built in my foundation, everything my parents raised me to be. That is no longer there. I have been bought for the highest bidder. No, seriously, I do appreciate everybody that stuck with us. I see our chat is already pretty live there. Thank you to you guys. We're going to continue to do this. Honestly, we didn't do it in the off season. Hopefully we find a little bit of consistency, and this can be something that maybe stays year round, but we just got to continue to grow. But let's get into no more sentimental thoughts. Go get you a Modelo, sit back, and get ready to see 3 guys yell at each other for the next 90 minutes of your life as we disagree on who the top 22 Ohio State football players are heading into the 2026 season. Again, this is not like a projection conversations. We've had enough projection conversations. This is a right now top 22 football players on the roster heading into the season. We're going to do this now in the preseason. I think we'll do it again during the bye week, and then sometime after the regular season in the Big Ten championship games, we'll do it again as well. It's going to be a living organism, a living, breathing power ranking to see how guys shift, though I'm pretty sure number 1 will continue to be where they are. So here's how we're going to do this. I put together a top 25, and if we agree, we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about that guy. If we don't agree, there's where the conversation starts. And the goal is to come to a consensus in less than 80 minutes. Deal? Deal, everybody? We going to be okay?
We're going to try.
That sounds like a, you shoot for the moon, so if you miss, you'll still be amongst the stars type of goal. Considering asking all of us to agree on something even keel might be difficult, but let's do it.
I do think in general we'll be pretty close. Like, I'd be pretty surprised if someone has a guy at number 10 and someone else has him at 22, right? I feel like we'll be in the ballpark on most of these, maybe differ a bit on some other ones, and at some point be able to come to consensus 22 and over the course of an hour and a half.
That sounds right. Yeah. No disrespect to someone who's never played college football before, but I would be stunned if somebody had Chris Henry Jr. top 4. Like I don't think that that's where we're gonna be. So I think we're gonna be. You're right, Stefan. I think we're gonna be ballpark here.
I think what's cool too is that this isn't a top 22 we're doing in February, right? Like I think
Mhm.
this is a mix of like what have we seen you do at the college level
Yeah.
coming into the season, but also like what have we seen you do in practice, right? Like I'm sure Chris Henry Jr., Brock Boyd, guys like that either appear on your list or or somewhere on your list, maybe not on your list, but like we're not just coming into this being like, well, Brock Boyd hasn't done anything in college football yet, so like he can't be on here. It's like, okay, yeah, but we know what we've seen in practice too, what we've seen, in terms of listening to Ryan Day and players and other assistant coaches. So that's like a fun part of this too, is that we have had a full offseason too to kind of mold what we think of these guys, even though they haven't played a game, since December 31st or whatever it was.
Sorry, I was tweeting out the link. I don't want you to think I was texting someone to give me a Modelo. Oh wait, maybe I was. We're not gonna. I'm not. I'm not gonna force feed you Modelo unless you want someone to do that. Then you can. I mean, if that's the world you want to live in, man, you can live in that world. Okay, so let's get into our list. Starting at number 1. Once I write it in pen, you can't change it. This is it. I have one.
You already wrote one in pen.
Absolutely, because if I didn't write him in pen, I'm going to look at you weird. Jeremiah Smith.
Yep. Yeah. Starting at 1, number 4.
Okay. Yeah. Number 4 in your program, number 1 in your heart. Here's the criteria though that I use to rank these guys. Proven college performance is like 35% of this heading into the season. It kind of has to be. Number 2, expected 2026 performance is like 25% of it. So there's a little projection here, as you mentioned, Stefan and Gillis, of like the Brock Boyd, Chris Henry element of this. Like just because they haven't played college football doesn't mean they can't have a case to be on a list like this. Their role and positional responsibility, I did value position a smidge, not as much as the NFL draft does, because what I don't want this to turn into is the top 10 is quarterbacks and wide receivers and edge rushers and we have to be real about this. And so those are, and then like reliability was the other 15% of the thing I thought about, because availability is your best ability to have. So Jeremiah Smith, number 1, no quarrels.
No. I think if we were doing a top 22 college football in its entirety, probably have number 1.
Cool.
We might have number 1, no quarrels. If we did, it's not unreasonable to be like number 1 generally.
I think if we were doing a general run, we'd at least go, okay, who else at least could have a case, right? We'd respect some of the other names out there, but we'd come back to 4 because we have eyes. And we have access to PFF and Football Reference and everywhere else that you can see, and YouTube, most importantly. YouTube, where we're at right now. Number 2 is Julian Sand for me.
Agreed.
No quarrels.
Only returning Heisman finalist in college football, was an outstanding quarterback for Ohio State for 98% of the season, right? He had his moments, sure, but when you look at the way we've heard about the steps he's taken this offseason paired with what we've seen him do at the collegiate level, it's hard not to have him in the top 2.
Okay. I'm laughing at somebody in the comments who is the better wide receiver, Jeremiah Smith or KJ Hill. I think we have an answer to that
one. Tyler, you're saying my audio is very cracky. Hopefully it sounds a little bit better now. I hope so. If not, we'll continue to work through this. I apologize. We're a work in progress. Listen, it's preseason for us too. It's week 0 for us. Give us time. We're not going to sound like Heisman Trophy finalists in week 1. Okay. Number 3, I have Austin Seerveld.
This is where we disagree.
Okay.
This is where I agree.
Interesting.
Okay. So we're either going to get Gillis to join us in the Seerveld party, or we are going to be swayed by Gillis and who he thinks it should be.
So if I had a hunch, and this is the worst possible way to start an argument in the entire world, I think we're probably just going to end up with Austin Seerveld at number 3, because I had him at number 4 on my 1 through 22.
Okay.
But the guy that I had 3rd, I think I'm judging by our offseason pods, judging by what we've talked about through the last, couple of months, I might be higher on him than everybody else. I think Jalen McClain is one of the ones. Like I think Jalen McClain is I predicted him to be an All-American. Like, I think this guy is someone who can lay the lumber on the back end. We saw him almost kill an Ohio University receiver last year. I look, Sierraveld's great. This was really tough for me between 3 and 4, but man, like Jalen McClain, I think is going to be someone that we get through that Texas game, and somebody's going to go, "How did Ohio State get that guy? Didn't they just lose Caleb Downs? Didn't they just lose him?" He's physical. He can play towards the line of scrimmage. I think he can play up top. I think he can do a lot of different things. And what are we going to say about Austin Sierraveld? Oh, he can play left tackle really well. Oh, he can play right guard really well. Oh, he could move around wherever you think you need him. Oh, well, he's valuable in this way. He's valuable in that way. I think those same kind of arguments apply to Jalen McClain, and I just sided with McClain.
So I'm not far off base with either. I have Jalen at 4. I just think with Austin Sierraveld, we've seen him be the dude, right, at his position, right? We saw him play left tackle, right? I would argue the most important position on the offensive line and do it at an all Big Ten caliber level. So I do think with Jalen McClain, there is maybe an element of confidence because we saw what he did last season, but also a little bit of projection in terms of like he's got to take another step forward. If Austin Sierraveld just is what he was last year, right, and he's going to do it at right guard instead of left tackle, then I think he's pretty, surefire, an all Big Ten type player because that's what he was. So that's why I kind of went with him at number 3 is because I'm not necessarily banking on kind of a step with him. Whereas with Jalen McClain, there maybe is a little bit more, which is why I had Austin at 3 and Jalen right behind him at 4.
Okay. So here's where I think you succeed your argument, Gillis. So much of the reason you have him at number 3 is a projection. And while that is part of our criteria here, I do think it's not the biggest part. The biggest part is what have you done for me lately? And Austin Sierraveld, I think, as an offensive lineman, was probably better than Jalen McClain was as a safety last year. And that's not a knock to Jalen McClain. These are two very, very good football players. But we're talking about a guy who is already an all Big Ten level player, and now we're going to put him at the spot where he's going to be playing in the NFL, and it might unlock the best version of the offensive line and the same I think his value pushes him above Jalen McClain in this argument. And so I think if you agree on putting Austin number 3, I will agree that Jalen should be number 4 because I currently did not have him at number 4, but I'm open to not having the argument about it if you can agree on Austin Sierraveld at 3.
I think that this is an agreeable circumstance.
Okay.
I think we can lawyer this up and do that because what if we had 2 out of the 3 of us had Sierraveld at 3, and 2 out of the 3 of us had McClain at 4. Compromise, baby.
Well,
Okay.
I think Buckeye Ryan points out in the chat too, like, yes, Austin Sierraveld was awesome, all Big Ten caliber last year. He also played a massive role 2 years ago when they won the national championship.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's a good point.
Absolutely. And again, I do apologize if my audio isn't perfect. We're working on it. So hopefully it'll get better as time goes on. I see you, Andrew, saying week to 0, no excuses. You're right. The standard is the standard here, right? The standard is the standard. It's to be Michigan when the Big Ten win a national championship. Right now, I'm just not doing that. I'm not doing that right now. So I'll get better at this. Okay, so who I did have at 4, and I'm succeeding to move down. I had Luke Montgomery at 4.
Okay.
But I hear you guys. I actually did not have a defensive player in my top 6.
Okay. Here's what's interesting with me is so I went Jeremiah, Julian, Sierraveld, Jalen. That's my top 4, and I think that's where we're at now. I think in that order is what we decided on. Here's my 5, 6, and maybe Steven, you just have it flipped. I have Carson Hinsman, then Luke Montgomery.
Way to go, Stefan. I also had Carson Hinsman at 5 and 6.
Ironically, I had Hinsman at 5. I pushed Luke up, and there's another offensive player in my mix. So let me ask this. Is first of all, Caleb Bardo is saying, what is the Buckeye Talk equivalent to beating Michigan? Being better than our sister site, live.com.
True.
Just to be real with you.
Winning the
And
Big
we love
Ten
our
is
sisters.
winning the Big Ten is our microphones working a little better.
Yeah. And and continuing to get better.
And guess what? Ohio State hasn't won the Big Ten in a while, so
So what's gonna happen first? Ohio State wins the Big Ten, or Steven gets a new microphone. Stay tuned next time to find out. Is the reason you guys have Carson Hinsman above Luke Montgomery is essentially the same reason that Buckeye Ryan pointed out about why Austin Saraveld should be above Jalen McClain. If he's done it a little bit, like this is technically going to be Carson Hinsman's third year as a starting center. Like in the preseason was picked to be the starting center, and it'll be his fourth year while he has spent time being the starting center. While Luke Montgomery had a contributing role late in 2024, had a quality 2025, wasn't perfect. I think NFL scouts and I think people outside of Ohio State love him the most of the three, in fact, and seem to think he has the highest ceiling. But he was good, not great last year. And to have him higher than Carson Hinsman is still a bit of projection and not completely based in what the actual data points have told us about these two quite yet.
Yeah, all of that is pretty spot on in my thinking. I think I'll add to it too a little bit of that positional value to have a guy that's that veteran, that experienced at center alongside Julian Sayin, or I guess in front of Julian Sayin, I think also goes a long way as well. Like to have a center who's arguably the best at his position in the country, I think is a compelling case. Whereas Luke Montgomery, I think, is one of the best offensive guards in the country, and there's a lot of preseason award watch lists that suggest the same thing. I don't know if he's the best offensive guard on his roster, right, on this team, and that's why I think Carson being so excellent at being a center, right, compared to the rest of the country, I think makes a strong case for him to be slightly above. There's a couple guys on this list where I have them right next to each other and they share a position. It's like one's just maybe a little bit more experienced, a little bit better than the other. I think that's what the Carson Luke thing is for me. So that's why I went with Carson over Luke.
Yeah, this was one of those things where it's like I tried really hard to not just be like, oh, let me rank this receiver next to this other receiver. And you just like, I think they're kind of close. Or let me rank this linebacker next to this other linebacker. And then I wrote my list down and I was tinkering with it for hours. And then I went, 4, 5, and 6. I have right guard, center, and left guard right now, all right next to each other. And I really struggled to not do that, but I was like, I think that's just the way that I feel. And frankly, the reason I have Saraveld, Hinsman, Montgomery in that order, I just think Hinsman was better at the end of the year last year. Like we say this positional versatility, we say this positional value, we say Ryan Day the other day compared Carson Hinsman and Julian Sayin to Seth McLaughlin and Will Howard, the Remington Award winner and national championship winning quarterback, who was a fifth-year quarterback. And yeah, that's great. But I also I think there's a lot of nefarious, or not nefarious, but I think there's a lot of extracurricular commentary that you could add to that. And it's like, I just think he's better. It's close, but I just think he's better.
So that's our top 6: Jeremiah Smith, Julian Sayin, Austin Saraveld, Jalen McClain, Carson Hinsman, Luke Montgomery. That's the interior of the offensive line, the returning starting quarterback, the best player not in the NFL. One of the 3 returning starters on defense. If we were doing this in a tier base, can I draw a line here? Or does one more person deserve to be on this list?
I think you could draw a line. I think you could draw a line.
Okay.
I think this is where we go a bit more from I've seen you do it at a high level to either I've seen you do it, there's a step forward to take, or we're projecting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think I agree with that.
I think everyone in this next year has to take a little step forward, has done something but has a step forward to take.
Or there's there has done something but there's a next step to take, or it's like you haven't done anything and there's a next step to take. I think there's a couple of guys that might fit that category.
Okay, so I had this person at 6, but now I'm championing a 7 here since I've already succeeded the 6th spot, and this is where I have Bo Jackson.
Okay. I have Bo at number 9. At 7, I have Peyton Pierce.
Okay. Gillis.
Okay. Do you want me to say where I have Bo, Peyton, or do you want me to say who I had 7th?
Start with Bo. I mean, if you have a different person at 7, present him now, actually.
I have a different person at 7, and this is almost entirely projection, but this is also like what I saw with my eyes in August.
Uh-huh.
This is where I have Devin Sanchez.
Okay.
Because like there is, and like if I can make my case, which to Stephen, this is like this is just the greatest thing in the world. It's the easiest sway in the world. The thing with Devin is there was enough flashes last year to where you're like, okay, there's something there. There's, there's enough that where you can feel decent about it. But then you get to the spring and then you get to the fall and he looks like a true number 1 lockdown. Like he looks like it. And yes, he hasn't played in that role yet. And I'm willing to cede that point of like, there are dudes on this list, specifically like a dude like Kenyatta Jackson, who is a 5th-year player who, has played a while and been a part of a lot and done a lot. I get that. But the thing for me with Devin is that the ceiling for what I have seen is just so high. And I think like we've said all offseason, would it stun you if he walks out on the field against Ball State and Texas and we're like, oh, this is a top 10 corner in the sport, like right now? No. So I had Devin Sanchez high. I did not think I was going to have him the highest of everybody. I figured everybody else would kind of be right around this ballpark, but I had him 7.
Okay, why do you have Peyton here, Stefan?
I'm not. Devin isn't far off for me. For number 7, he's lower, but he's not far off. Gillis. Peyton, I have because builds off a little something what Gillis said there. Right, we saw flashes of what Devin did. We've seen it become even better in this offseason. Peyton Pierce's flashes were a lot louder. Peyton Pierce made some big time plays and big time moments. Most notably the fumble that he forced and recovered in the game against Miami. And if you want to talk about the offseason, he was named a captain. Right? Like he received the most votes out of anyone to be a captain. So it's pretty clear that Ohio State, in this group of linebackers and defensive players and different packages and who fits here and who fits there, in the middle of it all is Peyton Pierce, who's not coming off the field. So there is certainly a little bit of projection here and a step forward that needs to be taken. But I don't know, like Arvell made that same jump from being the 3rd linebacker to being a star. Is Peyton Pierce going to be a top 5 draft pick? Probably not. Right. But I think if we could see what a 3rd linebacker to a starting linebacker jump looks like, Peyton's doing everything in the offseason to suggest that that's the lineage that's coming his way. But like I said, I'm also not far off on Bo Jackson. So if the argument here is like Devin flashed and has showed that he's ready to take a step forward, Peyton flashed, he's ready to take a step forward. How about a guy who ran for 1,000 yards?
Yeah. I had Bo 8.
Right.
So
because Bo's not flashes. Bo did it. Like he was a star running back for a season.
And that's why I think both of you should succeed your point.
Yeah. I'm all right with that.
I don't have anybody in my top 10 who has not done something meaningful in meaningful snaps in football for any team, whether it's Ohio State or they're a transfer portal addition. I don't. And I think Devin Sanchez, if we do this in the middle of the season and we're all going, he's 2 on this list, I'm not going to be shocked. He's not going to be 1 because I know he has to go against the guy who's number 1 every single day in practice, which is like, heck. I mean, that might be what LSU had with Derek Stingley and Jamar Chase when we look back on it 5, 6, 7 years from now. But I just don't think that Peyton and Devin should be this high because we think they're going to be that good. Because that's not the purpose of this. In fact, if we were doing the most valuable, I think I'd have Devin and Peyton probably higher because of that's a little bit of that is projection. But if the biggest piece of this pie is what have you done, neither of those guys have done more than what Bo Jackson did last year. Bo and Devin are the same age. And we're talking, Devin played as a true freshman. Both started as a true freshman. And there were like 3 running backs in college football who were freshmen and had 1,000 yards last year. Was it perfect? No. Are there things he needs to be better at? Yes. And the way Ryan Day talked on Monday, it sounds like he's starting to do those things. Or was that last Saturday when he was like, yeah, Bo's starting to make people miss at the last. But like that's I do think Peyton and Devin have become the new shiny things that we know are going to be very, very good. And so we're like, move out of the way, guy who's the same age or younger than those two. I think Bo should be. In fact, I think Bo has a stronger case that we change our line of demarcation with that tier 1 group and put him there than it does of anybody else being ahead of him. Because who else who is left to choose from has been more productive in their time as an Ohio State football player than Bo Jackson was as a starting Ohio State running back in 2025?
There isn't anyone. So, yeah, I'm fine with Bo at 7.
I don't like that Andrew already put Devin Sanchez's name out there.
Look, man, some of us stand for Devin Sanchez. Some of us on this podcast love him so much that we have him high.
Okay, so here's the next 3 for me, because Jalen's already gone, and I guess I think all these guys probably deserve to be in the mix right here for where we are right now. Kenyatta, Jermaine, and Peyton were for me 8, 9, and 10. Because again, we're talking about who's done it. Kenyatta's done it for multiple years. Jermaine's done it for multiple years. And Peyton is the first guy where it feels like a projection. But I think what he did in the Miami game is strong enough to have him over some guys who are either returning or are important transfer portal additions.
Yeah. And I think I go back to what I mentioned earlier too. Like he's a captain. Like like he's there. Like it's happening. Like people know how good he's going to be. So I guess the discussion to have here at 8 and 9, unless anyone defers, is Peyton and Kenyatta, right, in some order. Because I have Peyton 7, Kenyatta 8, and then Bo 9. So Bo's off that. So like Steven, if you have Peyton and Kenyatta in this mix here, seems like it's between those two guys, unless Gillis, you have another name. I know you have Devin, obviously, here. But I don't, based on where Steve and I have him, I don't know if we're ready to have the Devin conversation here quite yet.
So, yeah, my next 3, aside from Devin, are Peyton, Kenyatta, and Edric in that order.
So this is probably where we go, Peyton, Kenyatta.
I think
Buckeye Ryan, this is best players entering the season, not talented or most valuable, because I think these lists, I think the only thing that stays tried and true, regardless of what's the verbiage we're using, is 1 and 2 and 3. Everything else probably can move around the board. Though I think, you know what? I think Carson Hinsman might stick himself at 4 if we're talking valuable, because losing your starting center, oh boy, that was fun the last time that happened, huh? Okay, we can put Peyton next.
So we have Peyton at 8 and Kenyatta at 9.
Peyton, Kenyatta at 9.
Yeah.
Kenyatta
can't be outside the top 10. He can't.
Yeah, I agree. It is a little interesting because Kenyatta does definitely have more production, right? And has been a starter, right, for Ohio State. But I don't think very high on Peyton Pierce and what he's going to do.
I also don't think he's been so much more productive just because he's had more time than Peyton, that if you wanted to let that other 15% of like, okay, this is where they're also going, creep. I think Peyton has enough of a baseline to at least look Kenyatta in the eye that if you want to put him above Kenyatta, I'm not going to be mad about it. So I think it should be Peyton, Kenyatta. I'm okay. Jermaine? Jermaine's just like not top 10 coming into the season?
I didn't have him top 10.
Yeah, I don't have him there. I think there's an interesting discussion about the corners. But I guess Stephen, who do you have then left in your top 10 that we haven't ranked?
Just Jermaine. That's
okay. I have Edric at 10.
Wow.
Okay. I have him 11.
11.
I have Andrew Milbrandt said, please tell me Connor Hawkins is in the top 10. He's not in our top 10. He probably should be, though, at some point. He probably should make
not, there's an issue
being in the top 10. I had Edric at 16.
Okay. Wow.
So,
Can
can I just like introduce a bunch of names right now, and then we can, just for the sake of throwing them out there. Here's my 11 through 16, and I'll include Jermaine in this because he's still on the board. Jermaine Matthews, Earl Little, Brandon Ennis, Devin McEwen, Christian Allegro, Devin Sanchez, Edric Houston is my next grouping of people. So it's a combination of like, okay, it looks like he's headed that way. We think it's going to hit, but we're not all the way sure yet. But it's just enough for us to start having the conversation about where he should be on this list. It's some portal edition guys who have been interesting and that we've heard their names a few times. And then it's guys like Ennis and Christian Allegro, because for whatever the reason of the context, maybe we're not all the way sure what they are yet. But it feels like, especially with Brandon, there is a world of hyperbole that he's living in right now, where you're either give it grace and let's see, or you're like, he stinks, get him out of here, let's play the freshman.
What is fascinating is in that you mentioned Allegro in that group, right?
Yes.
In that group of 7 names, I have from 10 to 16 the exact same names, just in a completely different order. So like we are in lockstep in terms of like maybe this is a tier in and of itself, because if we're in agreement on like these 7 names in some order, let me start with Edric. I have him at 10. I don't have him right next to Jermaine Matthews. I have Jermaine a few spots lower, but I know you're up here in this area with Jermaine. I want to present like, I don't think Edric had a much worse season than Jermaine. I just think Edric had some foolish moments, had an injury early in camp, and I think another injury during the season, or at least a lingering injury during the season. And it was just not clean at times. But at the end of the year, when it started to click, like it was pretty close to the Edric that we expected for Ohio State late in the season. And if that's any continuation into this year, like, I don't know. I don't think it was that much worse of a season than Jermaine had, right? Because Jermaine had a really stellar start, but then faded toward the end. And he's been the first to admit, like, what happened against Indiana and Miami. He had a penalty against Michigan, right? Even though, Michigan's offense didn't do a whole lot. Like, he still had a penalty in that game. Like, there were moments at the end of the year where Jermaine wasn't at his best. So that's why I was comfortable kind of when comparing Jermaine and Edric of like, okay, Edric kind of lost his starting spot for a little bit there, but like, Tywone Malone also made a push. He was pretty good. I don't know if Edric had that much worse of a season than Jermaine, and that's why I went with Edric at 10, because I think what started to click at the end of last year, if that continues, and it seems like it, I mean, we have the benefit of having seen those practices where it looked like he was taken over. Like, I'm taking this into account too. That's why I'm pretty high on Edric here. But I also think a lot of this offseason, I've been pretty high on Edric, period.
I mean, their seasons were almost in inverse. Like, Jermaine started out so hot, and at the end was kind of while Edric started out kind of and kind of got hot at the end there. Okay, Gillis, I'm gonna let you bring Devin back into the mix here.
Kid's good.
Because
kids are good.
I don't know. It's a simple thing just putting Devin here and then let's discuss everything else.
I have him at 11. I'm here in this range.
It seems like we all kind of had a ranking or a clump of defensive players, because after my next 5, including Devin, are Devin, Edric, Christian Allegro, Earl Little, and Jermaine Matthews in that order.
Okay. How about this?
So I had 5 defensive players, and they're just kind of all mashed.
Okay. Perhaps I went with Devin and Edric. I love it, but I want to see him prove it. And you guys probably think the same thing, but not as extreme to put them fringe top 15 players. So how about this? Let's put Devin at 10.
Okay.
Let's put Edric at 11 and call it a day.
I like that.
More than likely, they're going to go higher. In fact, Devin probably needs to be higher if his defense wants to be what it needs to be this year at some point. So I'll live with that. I like this. This is much more cordial than I thought it was going to be.
We're halfway there.
It's
going to get less cordial because I think we're going to have a lot of dissension in the ranks as we get from. I think it's a lot harder to get a consensus on 12 through 22 than it is on 1 through 11.
Maybe we
So
say that, and then
based on the names Steven and I introduced, and I think pretty close to what you had mentioned there, Gillis, now is the discussion of the veteran transfers compared to the veteran returners who weren't necessarily what we thought they were going to be last year.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking Earl, Christian, and Devin McEwen, right, as terms of the transfers who have done things at different schools. And then we're talking Jermaine and Brandon, 2 starters last year who maybe weren't quite at the star level that we hoped that they would be.
Yep. I'm also going to tier 7 through 11.
I'm okay with
their
that.
group.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'll say for the sake of kicking off this conversation, I have Earl Little Jr. at number 12.
I had Earl at 11.
I had Allegro 12, Little 13.
Where's Allegro for you, Stefan?
13. They're right next to each other on my list.
Okay. I have Allegro at 14. So Earl Little, Christian, Allegro are the next 2.
Yeah.
Cool.
I just think Allegro, for me, like, you talk about all the things you can do. I think Allegro is going to be able to rush off the edge. I think he's going to be really, really dominant as an off-ball backer, as on the line of scrimmage linebacker. Like, I don't know, like Earl Little, I think is going to be awesome. And I think when we do this list in September, October, whenever the hell we do it, I think we're going to get to a point where Allegro and Little are starting to make their point of like, should they be higher? But I think they're going to rock. So I say that is that way. But I just think Allegro gives you more positional versatility. And I think we also have to take into account that Allegro missed like the back half of last year because he was playing with a broken arm, and he was also really good against Ohio State with a broken arm. I just think that dude was really, really good at Wisconsin. And, Earl was good. He's at Alabama and then Florida State. But I think Allegro has just shown more. And I think we've heard so much about how good this linebacking core is going to be this year, and Allegro is obviously a big part of that.
We have them 12 and 13. I think if they stay 12 and 13 all year, perfect.
Yeah, they probably don't need to go much higher for Ohio State to be at its best.
No. I think if they go higher, I'm going to have concerns about people who are higher than them in the preseason. And that's not about them. It's about what else is on this football team. In fact, if they go down to 15 and 16, I think I'll be okay with that. I have come to the conclusion that they are poor man, Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese. And I mean poor man, because those 2 are top 5 and top 15 draft picks. These 2 are not going to be top 5 and top 15 draft picks, he says, final last words. But they're not. But can you do some of the concept of what they might be? Oh, I think with Christian Allegro, you can play him as an off-ball linebacker, but also bring him off the edge. Sound familiar? Oh, with Earl Little, I think you can play him at multiple safety spots and move him around a little bit. Sound familiar? They're not going to be as good as the guys that they're replacing in those roles. But can they be some level of effective? Can they be 60% of the 2 dudes they're replacing in those roles, while Peyton Pierce, can he be Sonny Styles, just not a freak?
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. Okay, so we got Brandon and it's Devin McEwen.
And Jermaine Matthews. I have Jermaine 14. And I would pretty confidently put him ahead of those 2 receivers. I think Gillis is ready to introduce a new name, but I would confidently put him ahead of those 2 receivers.
Who do you want to introduce?
Man, this is going to be a fun conversation. I would like to introduce, because of what he did at his last school, I would like to introduce Connor Hawkins. Here's the thing. 81.8% from field goal range last year. He was 18 to 22. Did not miss a kick, 20 to 29 yards. Ohio State could have used that last year. Did not miss a kick, 30 to 39 yards. Ohio State could have used that last year. 40 to 49. Look, he's a college kicker. He went 5 of 8. I'll take that. I think that's okay, especially when you compare those 2 things, and it's 8 of 12 from 40 plus when you take into account the 50 range. He's made 50-yard field goals before, did not miss an extra point. I understand positional value. Some would argue that there was no higher, greater positional value in last season than for Ohio State than kicker. So I understand it. I understand that I have a specialist. I understand I have a thank you, Cameron, confirmed ball knower. I understand I have a specialist in my top 15. I understand he does not play offense or defense. I also know that fans are going to be ready to burn his apartment complex down if he misses a field goal. And I don't think he has missed many field goals. This isn't a do your job podcast. This isn't a talented thing. But he does his job really well. And I think while we think, but he did it last year really well. And here's what I'm saying. I don't know. Look, the air is different in Texas I'm pretty sure football specifications are the same. I'm pretty sure it's like that scene from Hoosiers where it's like they measure they measure the rim. You remember that scene where it's like they measure the rim? Yeah. He's like, I think you'll find these exact measurements back at our gym in Hickory. I'm pretty sure the goalposts are the same at Baylor as they are at Ohio State and everywhere else in the Big Ten. I'm pretty sure there's not a scheme thing that Connor Hawkins is going to have to figure out where how is Christian Allegro going to fit in this defense? How is Earl going to fit in this defense? Connor Hawkins might just be good.
And Jaden Fielding, though, I mean, he told us at Ohio Stadium, there's the wind, there's this, there's that.
I think that.
And then he went in. Lucas Oil Stadium was indoors.
Yes, I think that got misconstrued. I think that was just a kicker being neurotic because all kickers are like that. All kickers have to say the wind is coming out of the south to southwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour today, and it's a little more humid today, and the sun is coming down at this angle, and all kickers are like this. I think he just said it into a microphone. I think if we were to ask Connor Hawkins, how much do you pay attention to weather reports after giving him truth serum? I think he'd be like, I'm checking weather.com 5 times a day. I think he's very interested.
I think you're into it because it sounds like you.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Andrew Gillis, the kicker of Buckeye Talk.
Big weather guy. But yeah, I
hear your point, Gillis, and I do have Connor Hawkins in my top 25. I don't have him at number 15.
I don't have him
because here's the deal.
That's Jeremiah.
Here's the deal. Just go make the kicks, dude. I don't have some crazy analysis for the kicker. You know what? I do have one thing though. I think Jaden Fielding missing that game winner against Indiana in the Big Ten championship game was 1,000 times worse than any of the ones he missed against Michigan. And here's why. The reason why is he just added to the problem when they lost to Michigan in 2024. But he wasn't the number one thing against Indiana. I was like, are you serious, dude?
It was 10 degrees outside and it was like kicking a rock. And we were like, oh man, we got to give him leeway. And then Michigan's kicker made a 50-yard field goal in that game.
Well, no, that's one thing. But I just don't think it hit anybody's brain that the concept of him potentially missing it against Indiana. And so when he did it, we were like, wait, what?
The Michigan, the 2024 Michigan game was a lot of man, everyone's mad at Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and this offense. And then as the weeks kind of went on, I was like, oh, by the way, if Jaden Fielding just made his kicks, they probably win that game. But the conversation was still okay, they would have won that game 16-13. That's still not good enough. Why were they playing to win 16-13? The Indiana game was just it was such a culmination of so many times he had come up short that in that situation, you kind of assume okay, he's at least making this, and he missed it. And I kid you not, every Ohio State reporter in that press box who thought man, there's no way it gets worse than it was for Jaden Fielding, every one of them went, huh, he missed it.
And the thing is, so I'm weird, so I rewatch games all the time. There's always a game playing while I'm working or a presser playing while I'm working, just because you miss stuff sometimes and it's just in the background. And so I was listening to the Ryan Day Ohio State Michigan presser from last year, the post-game presser, because I was actually looking for something, but along the route, he was listing off all the things that went well in the game, and one of the things he said was that Jaden Fielding had that look in his eye. it's like, okay, so where'd it go 7 days later? Jermaine Matthews is going at
Fair
14.
warning. Fair warning. At Big Ten Media Days, Ryan Day did say Julius Satan has that look in his eye. Hopefully not the same. Hopefully not the same look in his eye.
Can we play Ryan Day bingo this year of just get a list of all his phrases that we know he's going to say at some point during the presser and just play bingo every single week?
Look in his eye.
Yeah.
He's playing really well on special teams. That means he's going to get some defensive reps. I'm looking at you, Aaron Scott. He's at Oregon now.
Yep. He's going to shrug when he has an answer that he's frustrated to give.
Yeah.
But he's just like, it's just kind of like a gotta shrug.
Quote, we look at everything.
We look at everything.
Somebody asks him a specific question and he goes, we look at everything.
Post practice, we haven't reviewed the film yet.
We're just getting off the field here.
Do we add a sneaky space of him saying Michigan this year? Because Julian and I think Carson Hinsman maybe in a presser said like there's been a little bit less of the team up north and a few mentions of Michigan. I would be interested to see if Ryan Day slips one of those.
Ryan will never say it.
I think the players, if they're not in like the Michigan mental space, if you ask them about Michigan, they'll say team up north. But if you just ask them a random question and they're just listing off places, though, because it's because they're not forcing it. That's the difference there. And Ryan Day will never say it for a lot of different reasons. Jermaine Matthews going at number 14, Gillis. I understand what you're saying.
I have him at 14. I have Jermaine Matthews at 14.
Okay. I was reaching a point here where we can't have a dude who's a multi-year starter and has played meaningful reps for 4 years outside the top 50 to start the season. Now, if he ends up outside the top 20, he ends up outside the top 20.
I think it was Stefan who brought up the point. I think the inverse Edric Houston was like a really good point where like we watched that game last year and against Texas in week 1. And I remember kind of like thinking to myself, like, he might go pro because I don't know how much his draft stock is going to raise if he comes back another year. And if he plays like this all year, he's going to be like a first or second round pick because somebody like where did D'Angelo Pons go? Like he's going to be like in that ballpark of like second round. Yeah. It's like, I don't know if like a team's going to look at him at the outside, but like they might look at him as a slot guy and like this could be really valuable, yada, yada, yada. And then it just kind of faded through the year. And I'm not saying like, I think he's going to be better this year. I think he's going to be more consistent this year. But I think Edric was the complete opposite. Where at the beginning of the year, we were like, what are we doing here? And then by the end of the year, you're like, oh, this is what we thought.
I think that those days of if you're borderline, you're definitely going to leave are done because you can pay these players now. Yep. And most of these programs can just give you if you're going to be a 4th round draft pick and you think you might be able to get yourself to the 3rd round, then you might as well come back because you're going to make the same amount of money anyway. So let's have an Ennis McEwen discussion.
This was I have McEwen 15 and Ennis 16, and this was maybe one of the discussions I was most excited to have.
Yeah. What matters? Well, maybe what matters more? Production or the level you did it at?
How would I mix of both? Production at a lower level or lack of production at a higher level?
Because I guess the question is, do you think if Brandon Ennis and Devin McEwen traded places last year, there is any difference in the numbers either one of them would have put up?
I'm not sure. I'd probably not. Probably not. But I will say from the practices that we did watch, and take it with a grain of salt because it was the first 3 practices of preseason camp, and 2 of them were without pads. I thought Devin McEwen looked way better.
Mm-hmm. I had Connor Hawkins ahead of both of them, but I had Devin McEwen 16 and Brandon Ennis 17.
It's interesting, man.
Like, and again, like I understand I understand your point, but like, there is this element of like, let's compare. It's like it's almost like the American League and the NL, like before like the DH, and it's like how do you compare hitting and all right, well, how do you compare batting averages and this and that? But it's like I think it's a reasonable conversation to have, like to say like, all right, Devin was really productive at UTSA, and Brandon was a very clear like third option in Columbus,
option.
and and I was gonna say very clear third option in Columbus if you're just counting the receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the fourth option if you took Max Clare, and it's like, okay, let's look at those two things as like comparison. It's like, okay, that's going to be really tough to judge. From what we'd seen, this is where I took into account from what we'd seen and a little bit of what we'd heard, and that was Devin McEwen looks awesome. And when they have been on the same field, I've seen Devin McEwen make more plays than Brandon Ennis. When they have been on the field, I've heard Devin McEwen's name more than Brandon Ennis. So I think it's going to be close. Like I still maintain it's going to be JJ and then a host of other guys with a bunch of catches. But you say they haven't been playing on a level playing field, and that's totally fair. But then I went my logical thing is when we went to a level playing field, I have Devin over Brandon.
Except like the coaches keep putting Brandon Ennis with Jeremiah Smith.
But is that because of his leadership ability, or is that because of what he is as a receiver?
I don't think Ryan Day had to come out and say that we're looking for 3, 4, 5, and 6 because we already know who 1 and 2 are. I think he could have very easily said, listen, Jeremiah's Jeremiah, but he can't do it by himself. Other guys have got to step up. We want to get to 6. We got Jeremiah, but we need other guys. Brandon, he could have talked about Brandon Ennis in a way of, I'm challenging you. I mean, he just got done challenging Bo Jackson, and he's in the midst of challenging his sophomore quarterback right now, who's not even a starter this year. He could have spoken. He could have used us to issue a challenge to his number 1 leader. And Sawyer said this in the chat, and I think this is a valid point. You see what McEwen does on the field, and you hear about Ennis's leadership. I wish we were talking to assistants because I would want to ask him flat out, Cortez Hankton, what makes Brandon Ennis a threat as a football player? That's it. I know he can lead. I know he's passionate. I know he cares. I know all of those things. I know how much he matters to the program of Ohio State football. How much does he matter to the football team in between the lines for 60 minutes every Saturday for the next 4 months? In terms of what does it look like if Brandon Ennis is productive? Because I feel like we've had 9 months of talking about Brandon this way, and we still don't have an answer. Because you're right, we've seen Devin McEwen flash. We've heard a million different things about Brock Boyd. We've heard a million different things about Chris Henry Jr. We've gotten to see both of those guys flash. It sounds like Jaquaden Guilford is starting to figure it out, even if he hasn't lost his black stripe yet. There are a lot of other weapons, even if you want to go to running back. We've heard good things about Isaiah West. We've seen good things from Isaiah West. We already know about Bo Jackson, and it sounds like the thing they were trying to get out of him is starting to work. Legend Bay got suspended the first 2 practices, and he lost his number in the middle of spring practice because like he was just being a knucklehead because he's 18 years old. Of course he was. And yet we still heard all these amazing things about the type of football player he was. Still waiting on that from Brandon Ennis. And I don't know if that's good, bad, or in general. So both of you have McEwen above Ennis.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, but I'll do it.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot of what you asked there. What would McEwen's numbers look like if he was in Ennis' spot? And I think they would have been better because I think he would have been better with the ball in his hands. It's
yeah.
Like if Ennis had 500 yards, maybe I'd be like, I don't know if I could see him doing that. Devin McEwen breaks a few of those, and he's getting more than 270 yards in this offense, right? Like 270 yards is like 2 good games for JJ.
Yeah, like there are
2 good games for Cornell. Like we don't have to compare to Jeremiah's 2 good games for Mecca, right? To have 270 yards, like
the chat's right. Like there were moments last year where Ennis was open, and it like you go like you see it on Twitter, and it's like, hey, Julian missed this guy. Like I think with the 2 guys that we saw that the most with were Max Clare and Brandon Ennis. There were a couple.
Absolutely.
There was a play against Miami where it was like I think it was our columnist Jimmy Watkins who texted us in all caps some expletive text that was like rip the seam, Julian. And there were moments where like Claire was open and there were moments where Ennis was open. But that is where I go to this. It's like, what did Ohio State say that they know that they needed to do this year? And that was add yards after the catch. And maybe the most yards after the catch guy on the roster, not named Jeremiah Smith, is Brandon Ennis. And they've been talking up Devin McEwen. Like, I think I want people to understand that, like last year it was Carnell and JJ, and like both those guys were great downfield. They were great along the sidelines, strong hands, great route runners. Like, they were able to go up and make plays just with like the style of receiver they are. That is, I don't think, what Devin McEwen's going to be. Like, Devin McEwen is not like a burner where it's like, go catch a bomb because you ran by everybody. I think Devin McEwen's a guy where it's like, run a 5-yard slant and turn it into 14. And I think he's better at that than Brandon Ennis.
That's where I don't know. I think he is going to be their burner, take the top off. This is the reason why Jared J can get stuff underneath, I think, is what he is going to be for them. But the overall point of like the yards after the catch, Brandon Ennis, I'm looking it up right now. He averaged 7.5 yards per reception last year. Like, he didn't even average a first down per reception. And yards after the catch, he's supposed to be the yards after the catch guy. Jeremiah Smith, 4.3. Carnell Tate, 4.5. Brandon Ennis, 4.4. So the guy who plays the position where a lot of his production is supposed to be after he's already gotten the ball is behind the guy who is playing the position, the Z position, that is supposed to be more downfield anyway. And last year, and listen, like Jeremiah Smith talked about this in the spring. This was like the worst it's been. Again, 2021, the starting trio was 6.2. 2022, they were 6.0. 2023, 7.1. 2024, 5.7. Last year, 4.4 yards after the catch combined for the starting wide receiver trios, which I wrote that back in the spring, so we don't have to rehash that all over again. I don't know if we made a list of who are the most intriguing football players you want to watch this year. Brandon Ennis is near the top of that list. It's because I just don't know how to talk about him. Mm-hmm. I don't. He's not a first-round draft pick. Is he a day 2 pick? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if he's a draftable player. I just don't know, and I think trying to talk about him with any finality is almost irresponsible. But I do think, at least for right now, he is a top 20 player on this team. Though it's very easy for him to not even be in a conversation when we get to the middle of the year. But it's also, I think, very easy for him to make a case for being in the top 10. It's so all out there. Because Tyler is saying this in the chat, and it's a really good point. And I remember asking Brian Hartline about this. Brian Hartline didn't coach his receivers to be run after the catch guys. He coached them to be possession guys, catch the ball and get the first down. Yes, I remember asking Brian Hartline, what's the most important thing for you in a wide receiver? Catching the ball. He liked the guys who could win one-on-one down the field. I mean, a la Marvin Harrison Jr., a la Garrett Wilson, a la Chris Olave, a la even Emeka Ibuka's a bigger slot receiver, even if he's in the slot, a la Carnell, Jeremiah, Chris Henry Jr., Quincy Porter. These are big one-on-one guys who can win in their matchup problems. Go look at Cortez Hankton's history. Like, you know what the best example of what the difference between Cortez Hankton and Brian Hartline might be as wide receiver coaches? Marvin Harrison Jr. to Malik Neighbors. Marv got coached by Brian. Malik got coached by Cortez. Go look at what LSU did with Malik Neighbors. And go look at what they were doing with Marvin Harrison Jr. I can guarantee you nobody was asking LSU questions about, hey, you think you need to get better at yards after the catch? But they were probably asking, hey, do you think you need to win better one-on-one down the field?
Yeah. I think the thing with Ennis is that, like you said, Stephen, he is maybe the most volatile player that we're going to talk about in our top 22. If he finishes the year as 7 or 8 and we're like, hey, it took a little bit longer than people thought and people were kind of nervous about it, but it clicked and he was this team's clear second leading receiver and he was this team's clear second option, and hip, hip, hooray for Brandon Ennis. We could also get to Indiana and Stephen, we're in the press box and like typically like we're all like watching like warm-ups and how they line up and whatever. And like, I could be like looking through my binoculars and Stephen goes, oh, and we look out at down the field and the receiving trio is Jeremiah Smith and Devin McEwen and Chris Henry Jr. or Brock Boyd is in that mix. And like, and then by the end of the year, we're talking about Brennan and it says like a 5th receiver, like because the freshmen have been really good and he's just been overtaken by freshmen and he's still part of the rotation, but Chris Henry Jr. and Brock Boyd are also playing a hell of a lot. So it's like, he could go, I think, pretty high on this list, and we're talking about him as like the 60th overall pick in the NFL draft because he's not an outside guy. We could also be talking about him as like he's a rotational piece in this receiver room.
Okay, I have Ian Moore at 17.
I do too.
I need more at 18. Because
okay, so he's going to say
15.
we're not bringing Connor Hawkins into this yet. No, not yet.
See, here's the thing. We're like kind of on the same page. It's just like I'm like one off now because
you have Connor Hawkins there. Yeah. I do not think it is a good thing if Connor Hawkins is in the top 22 at the end of the season.
Oh, I disagree. I think it's actually a very good thing.
I don't.
I need Connor Hawkins to make like 3 kicks this year.
That's it.
If he's 3 for 20, but the 17 misses are in like the second quarter against Ball State, and the 3 makes are in the fourth quarter against Indiana, USC, and Oregon, I'm chilling. Like I don't care.
And then we're putting him on the top 22.
And that's
maybe I will put him in the top 22 then.
That's why role and responsibility was one of the things I mentioned when I was put. That's the thing. You have one job, and I don't think for you the difference between you doing your job and not doing your job is a difference between you being a top 20 player and not being a top 20 player on this team. It's kicking isn't important until it's important.
Kick ball through uprights.
You know, it's you know, like you don't talk about the kicker when they make them. Typically, you talk about them when they make really, really clutch ones or when they miss really, really clutch ones.
What did Chad Johnson say? I'm like life insurance. You can count on me. You need your kicker to be life insurance. Where
That's it.
You don't want to use your life insurance. You don't want to have life insurance. But damn, you have good life insurance if you need it.
Yeah. I have State Farm car insurance. I don't want to have to call State Farm.
Oh, I never want to be on the phone with my insurance providers.
I'm paying you to leave me alone.
Okay. I'll say this on the Connor Hawkins front. Gillis, I agree with everything you said about in terms of like how good of a player he's been. I'm more confident that like what Devin McEwen did at UTSA can translate to Ohio State than I am what a kicker does at Baylor to translate to Ohio. Like to me, it's just like it's just the pressure is completely different. Like Adam Rittenberg wrote a great piece for ESPN about like Ryan Day and how he's been at Ohio State now for a decade. And it's like Greg Schiano's got a quote in there where he's like, man, I watched some of those pressers. Ryan sounds exhausted. It's a different beast. Like it's a different beast. And and Jaden Fielding will probably, if Jaden Fielding comes back and gets his eligibility and goes to play at like West Virginia, actually bad comp because they've had some pretty bad missed field goals there. He goes to play at Florida State.
Yep.
Like it's going to be a whole different Jaden Fielding in terms of like the pressure that's on you. Yeah, man. 50-yard field goals are easy when you don't got the fringe staring down you.
Fringe, baby.
Shout out to the fringe, man. We like the fringe.
His first kick, I know it. If Jaden Fielding plays college football, his first kick this year is going to be a 54-yarder that goes through the uprights, 10 yards to spare.
I mean, I'm watching him make a 62-yarder in a pro day, so he can do it. But it's can you do it when it matters is the only question. I have James Smith at 18.
I'm at 19. I have Phillip Daniels ahead of him.
Oh, interesting. I had another defensive tackle ahead of James Smith.
You have John Walker ahead of him or Will Smith?
I have Will Smith ahead of him.
That's fun.
Yeah, because like here's what I'll say. What James Smith did at Alabama was, I think, fine. But like I don't think we're looking at James Smith coming from Alabama as like, damn, Ohio State's got a locked in group here. Like I think Will Smith Jr. has just been this consistent. This dude's always kind of productive when he plays. I think we've like Stefan. I think we were on the podcast. I think it was Stefan where we were talking about might have been that third scrimmage or the first like Saturday practice. And I think Stefan was like, you know who was really good? Will Smith Jr. And it was one of those, like, I feels like we've said that. I've had this conversation with, like, other beat writers where, like, we were walking to the car one day and I was like, you know who looked pretty good? Will Smith Jr. I think it was Cameron Robinson.
But would you say, okay, that's fine.
I think he's looked better than James Smith. And I just think they're different defensive tackles. I just think
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think Will Smith is an old reliable. I've seen some good things from James Smith, but I've also heard some really good things about James Smith. I think Will Smith is very reliable, but I think James Smith is a better football player, and I take Bill Landis over all of them.
That was the funniest one.
That's so good.
Bill Landis trying to compliment John Walker by being like, "You look pretty slim this year," and that gives you a glimpse into what John Walker is as a defensive tackle, because John Walker's fast.
But I'm like, I don't know. I haven't seen or heard the flashes the same way that.
Here's what I'll say about two guys that I wonder if Gillis has on his list that I don't have on the list. If Ohio State really, really, really believed that Will Smith Jr. and Bo Atkinson were ready for the type of seasons they need, would they have gone out and gotten Quay Russo and James?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because right now we're talking
Smith
about
did not get James Smith to be a depth piece. They got him to be a starter.
Did they?
Here's
what I would say. Here's what I would say. Edric, Will, who am I for? The returning defensive line or defensive tackles, like after the port, like
Jason Moore.
So you needed to go to the portal to get.
Okay, yeah. Well, needing to go to the portal and what you get in the portal are two different conversations.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to go.
Ohio State needed to go in the portal to get another quarterback. They didn't need to go get another starter. And I guarantee you right now, they're going to go get another quarterback this January. Tavian and Luke get to decide whether or not that's a guy who's going to be in the competition to start, or if it's just going to be a guy because you need to have 4 people in the room. So you're going to portal. I don't want to go the route of like, oh, well, you had the portal. Look what you have to do that every year. That's normal now. Right. Are you going to portal to fill a hole? Or are you going to portal because you got to fill your roster out? James Smith is here to fill a hole because Caden McDonald popped much more than they were expecting him to pop. Quay Russo is here to fill a hole because they thought maybe you'd get the 5 for 5 in December, and instead it came when Caden Curry is already living in Indianapolis again. So I agree with Stefan from that note. James Smith is here, so Will Smith can continue to play the exact same role he played last year. And that's be the 4th best defensive tackle. And he'll be very good in that role. But I don't think he's a starting caliber defensive tackle, even if, you know what, I think he's going to start against Ball State. Fine. Let's see who plays the most snaps 7 days from now. That's how I look. When I look at everybody who starts against Ball State, I'm going to go, cool. You're going to be out there in 7 days when we're in Austin, or are you starting right now because it's Ball State and you're back on the roster? There's nothing wrong with that.
I did have Phillip Daniels ahead of both the defensive tackles. I had Moore and Daniels back to back.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Phillip Daniels. All right. Phillip Daniels goes 18.
I think Phillip Daniels this season was like a brother of Jermaine Matthews this season. Like, we watched the Texas game, and we saw Colin Simmons get so mad that he what is it? He took a swipe at him, or he ripped off his helmet. Yeah. Like, they had Colin Simmons and Ethan Burke, who were supposed to be a really, really good pass rushing tandem, just in prison. And we talked so much about the Arch Manning of the offense couldn't figure it out for Texas. They were throwing things at him that they weren't ready for. Ohio State's defense looked really good. The other part of that game that I think kind of goes underrated was that Ohio State's offensive line, we were kind of how they going to look. You know, you got Austin Serva at left tackle. You got a transfer at right tackle. Colin Simmons is really good. How is this going to map out? And I thought they played really well. And I just think as the year went on, I think it was Spencer Holbrook who made a really good point to us. Phillip Daniels had not played that type of season before. Phillip Daniels had not played that much. Yep. And I think you just saw it kind of steadily downturn a little bit.
He's also banged up. He didn't start against Purdue, and I don't think whatever was lingering against Purdue, I don't think it just magically went away when they played Michigan and then Indiana and then Miami. I think that played part of it. It reminds me a lot of to make a baseball comparison of when there's a pitcher who's young in his career, and it's this is the first time he's had a pitch over the course of a 162 game season, and you get to August and September, it's man, his fastball's losing 1 or 2 miles per hour because it's just there's a little bit of fatigue. I think there was a little bit of that paired with an injury with Phillip Daniels, where I'm not going to sit here and act like he was perfect, right? And there's an excuse for everything that went wrong at the end of the year, but he's right up there with Ian Moore right now in terms of what we've seen at this level.
He probably needed a Modelo. I think it's a good thing that all 5 starters are in the top 18.
Yeah, I think
to start the year. I think it's a very good thing.
I think I thought about a sixth guy making this list, to be honest. I didn't put him on there, but I thought about Josh Padilla being in my top 22.
He was in my top
Availability.
20.
Availability, yeah.
Availability, man. Availability. I hope they rotate Josh in a little bit against Ball State, just because you can.
Yeah.
And then the next week, if everything goes the way Ohio State would like it to go, and they're 2-0 and Kent State comes to town, I can't wait to watch the 2s and the 3s.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a mixture of names because we got 4 spots left. James Smith, Isaiah West, Bo Atkinson, and this is in no order. Now I'm just listening. John Walker, Riley Pettijohn, Quay Russo, Chris Henry Jr., Brock Boyd, and Jay Timmons.
So I have James Smith. Here's my order of those 4. You guys can chime in from there, I guess. I have 19 James Smith, 20 Jay Timmons, 21 Chris Henry Jr., 22 Isaiah West.
Jay Timmons is 20 for me because I can't justify putting him higher than 20, but I think he deserves to be on the list because he stole a starting spot from an all ACC defensive back. Yeah. He should be the highest. If I don't know how many freshmen are going to end up on this list, but he should be on the list.
100%.
Yeah, that was.
I'm fine with him at 20. Why don't we debate which defensive tackle goes at 19 then?
Okay,
cool.
We can do that.
I think it should be James Smith.
We've got 3 spots left.
Yeah, 19, 21.
We've got essentially, if we're going to debate defensive line, we've got 3 spots for 5 defensive linemen: Will Smith Jr., James Smith, Quay Russo, Bo Atkinson, John Walker.
Oh, I don't think they're all on there.
I didn't say it.
But I'm saying is that what we're debating, or is it, or are we throwing other names?
We're debating which one's the best because that one's going at 19, and it sounds like you're outnumbered here, where it's going to be James Smith at 19.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure. I mean, I had Will Smith Jr. and James Smith back to back, so it's like again, it's one of those things where it's like, chicken or steak, and it's like, well, I was close to choosing chicken, but if it's whatever.
2 guys that'll rotate with each other a decent amount.
Okay, so we got 2 spots left. We've got a veteran defensive lineman that the entire beat has decided is definitely going to be good this year. I love groupthink. We've got Riley, and you know what? TJ probably needs to be mentioned as well. And we got 2 freshman wide receivers.
Okay. And a sophomore running back.
Okay, we were doing a bit earlier. We were laughing earlier. It was funny. Haha, Andrew's out on an island.
I'm not putting Connor Hawkins.
No, but hear me. I just want to ask this. Because here's where I'm at. We're debating because I think he goes into this mix because it's like, here was a dude who was genuinely good at his job, very good at his job last year. And then I don't know, what would, if you want to say that, James Smith is up there, cool, whatever. But what would the argument be for Jay Timmons over Connor Hawkins, or Isaiah West over Connor Hawkins, or Jay Timmons over Will Smith Jr., or Jay Timmons over Quay Russo, or Isaiah West over Quay Russo? Because while I understand the argument of you don't want to do the whole thing as projection because that's not what we're doing. I get it. We're looking at Jay Timmons as a starter. But I didn't have Jay Timmons in my top 22 because he hasn't played a college down yet. And I understand he took a job from Terry Moore and he changed the way that they're going to fundamentally play defense. But there are dudes on this list who have, 1, played college football and played college football well in their specific role. Mm-hmm. And 2, you have dudes who have not played college football at all or not played college football in any kind of role before.
So here is where I do think sometimes the fact that you played college football can work against you.
Yes. I agree.
Because we know what you are. And you have to listen to the coaches, especially until the rest of us get to see it.
Sure.
And then you can start to form your own opinions. Jay Timmons has been a thing for 9 months. And then we get out there the first day of fall camp and he's rotating in at corner. Then the first time we see any nickel packages, he is out there on the field. Yep. And he's making plays. So this is not, you're right, he hasn't played college football. I mean, neither had Jeremiah Smith. and we would have had him in our top 22. You know what? No. Okay, fine. Let's take JJ out of this. If we covered Texas and this was 2024, we would have had Colin Simmons in our top 20. If we covered Oregon in 2025, we would have had DeCorian Moore in our top 22. If we covered Alabama in 2024, we would have had Ryan Williams in our top 22. Like, fine, JJ's the anomaly, but he's also not the only freshman in recent history who has very quickly established himself as one of the best players on his football team. He's just the most extreme version of that. So when for 9 months you have coaches telling you, yeah, there's something there, and then everything else you see continues to push that, at some point you got to hear it and not be so caught up in, well, this guy's played football, so he should be on the list over this guy, especially when the guy is – part of the reason why Connor Hawkins can't make the list for me, and why I would easily put Isaiah West on the list over Connor Hawkins, is Isaiah West plays a role in how much we actually have to rely on Connor Hawkins to begin with. Because if the offense does its job, that's less opportunity for Connor Hawkins to go prove he's a top 20 player. Because I don't know, part of the reason why Jaden Fielding kept having to do stuff the last 2 years is because they stunk in the red zone. So if they stopped stinking in the red zone, all of a sudden, who cares that Connor Hawkins is one of the top 20 teams? Because this is one of the best. You know when you didn't hear about Jaden Fielding? For like the first 8 weeks of the 2024 season, when they were awesome in the red zone because their offensive line was great and they were operating at a high level on offense.
I'll say this too with Jay Timmons. A lot of the other names on the list, like there were starting jobs there to take, and they didn't take them. And like Jay Timmons kind of didn't have a starting spot to take this offseason, and he went and made one for himself, right? Like what Steven said, he beat out an all ACC transfer. Like Will Smith Jr., Caden McDonald left. Like there's a starting spot. Like go get it. I think James Smith has gone out and got it, right? Bo Atkinson, like there's a starting spot there when Caden left. It's like he's probably going to start, we think. Like I don't know. It's not for certain. Like Riley Pettijohn, right? There was a spot there, and Christian Allegro come in. I know injury plays part of that, right? Riley missed a spring, and he's got some catching up to do. But like Jay Timmons went out and played to a point where like Ohio State created a starting spot for him, right? Like they went out and got Terry Moore and Earl Little. We didn't think that they needed a new slot corner, and there's Jay Timmons.
Buckeye Ryan asked, "Can we name the player who shall not be named yet?" And Sawyer Side did say his name. Did I say Legend Bay's name earlier?
Well, you just
maybe when we were talking about players losing black stripe.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe.
Okay, we can. So now that we're interacting with some of the listeners and texters, we can say it now because now we have some tangible evidence of it. I think
we're back.
The day he got back to.
back.
Well, no, I'm just the moment we got on the field and we got to see it with our own 2 eyes. It's like, okay, now we can discuss him as a football player. It doesn't mean we have to go to the moon with how good he's going to be, but at least we can have a discussion about Legend Bay. When before it just felt like hearsay, and every time it was time to see him, he either was serving a disciplinary thing or he was not healthy. So it kind of became a legend, ironically enough. So yeah,
it seems
Jay
like
Timmons
you guys are locked in on at 20.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does another freshman deserve to be on the list right now?
I have Chris Henry Jr. at 21 because we saw it in the spring game.
Okay.
I didn't have Chris Henry Jr. on my list, and I drove the bus for him.
I don't have him or Chris on the list because they are not starters yet.
Yeah, right.
But I also will say that we're going to do this again in the bye week, and I'm just going to call it now that both of them will be in the top 15.
I can agree with that.
Okay.
Do you have Isaiah West on your list?
Absolutely.
Not a starter.
Do we know that for sure?
Do we know for sure that Chris Henry Jr. is not a starter?
No. Okay, fine.
I do have Isaiah 22. So, Gillis, if you also have Isaiah, I'm fine putting him at 21 here.
No, not in my top 22.
Okay, make the case for Bo Atkinson.
Ew.
Well, okay. So we had James Smith, Will Smith Jr. We had that debate. I had these guys as I wrote on my list 21 and 21 and a half. Because
by the way, Will Smith Jr. can be considered here. I'm okay with that too.
Okay.
I'll you know what? Common ground, can we just put Will at 21?
All right, I'm good with that.
All right, cool. Because I
And
don't
then
know if we need another
22
whole explanation of that.
22, I was very conflicted because I think they're both. You say like they're not starters, but it's like I think if the first play against Texas, they roll out there and Steve Sarkisian's late to get the call in, and there's a 5-yard false or there's a 5-yard delay game, and it's 1st and 15. I think Quay Rousseau is on the field. I think if it's 1st and 10, I think Bo's on the field.
Okay.
And I think those are two interchangeable pieces. So it's like I had Quay ahead, but it's gonna be situation dependent, which was where I really had a hard time with ranking these guys.
Fine, but it's been made abundantly clear to us that Isaiah West and Bo Jackson are co-starters at running back.
Are they? I don't think they're co-starters in the same way that Quay and Bo are co-starters.
Quay and Bo snaps are strictly about the situation. They're gonna roll Isaiah and Bo.
Yeah, of course.
As a matter of fact, you know what? I'll mark it down on a Wednesday afternoon. I can guarantee you right now that Isaiah West is going to play more meaningful snaps of football in 2026 than Bo Atkinson and Quay Rousseau are. I can guarantee, barring injury, I can guarantee you that.
I can see that. I've kind of started to think in the boat of Isaiah maybe in the similar way of like Quinshon and Travion, where like they were almost identical yards, but like Quinshon actually had like a decent amount of more carries than Travion.
Yes.
I think Bo and Isaiah might have the same amount of yards, but Isaiah has more carries. So I'm open to that. Bo and Quay kind of go in tandem because one fulfills the other's shortcomings. Where with Isaiah and Bo Jackson, it feels like they work in tandem because they can both be used in any situation on any down on any play. It's really just a matter of keeping them fresh. Like Quay coming in on 3rd down, I don't think it's about keeping Bo fresh. I think it's about that's what Quay does. And Quay not playing on 1st and 10 is not about keeping Quay fresh. It's about, you know, him not being good enough in that role, right, to stop the run and things of that nature. So it almost feels like they combine for one player, whereas Bo and Isaiah, just players in and of themselves, are good.
The beat as a whole has decided Bo Atkinson's going to be a good football player this year because he's been at Ohio State for a year, and that's just what happens. And that's fine.
If we did this 2 weeks ago, Isaiah West is like number 11.
That's the point I was going to make. What are we doing here? We just spent a month having people go, you have no idea the level of offseason Isaiah West had. Hey, is Isaiah West going to start over Bo Jackson to now he can't even get in the top 22? What are we doing?
We did also have Ryan Day say, Bo Jackson, oh my God.
But he didn't say that, oh, Bo Jackson
didn't say like
all this, so now we don't need Isaiah West. In fact, it was almost the opposite. He was so excited to talk about Bo because he's already talked about Isaiah, which is a polar opposite than where he was first day of spring, where he was at Big Ten Media Days, when it was like, I don't know if I have any running backs. Oh no. Hey, look at what Isaiah West has done. And now Bo Jackson's joined the party.
What an impression of Ryan Day that was. If we did this 3 weeks, if we did this after the open practices, it would have been like Isaiah and Bo in some order at like 13 and 14. And then Day said what he said. It's like, okay, now Bo Jackson goes up to where we have him 7 on our list, and Isaiah West falls. And like, should he have fallen completely off the list? I don't know. That's why I have him on here.
And I don't think that's how, you know what, if we had gotten Day some true serum and we went, hey, I think after the first day of practice, we had Bo and Isaiah 11 and 12 on our top 22 football players list. And now that you've talking about Bo so greatly, Bo has now moved up to 7 on our list, and Isaiah West is not on the list anymore. Is that how you meant us to take that? He'd have been like, no, what's wrong with you? Yeah, Bo should move up to 7, but Isaiah West should probably be like 16 or 18.
I think also, like, based on Carlos Loughlin's history, like, C.J. Donaldson was probably top 22 last year.
Yeah, it just wasn't a good thing.
Yeah. It was not a good thing. But also, like, they also didn't have. I don't think they had as much depth on their roster last year. It's like, I don't know how many.
Right.
Like, we have 3 defensive tackles on this list. Like, were there 3 that we would have had on this list last year? But probably not. Like, Edric Taiwan would have competed for a spot probably. Whereas, you got some more depth this year, but like even if Bo Jackson and CJ Donaldson is the worst pairing of running backs that we see in the Laughlin era, like even that was still good enough to have two guys probably in the top 22.
I think Isaiah West deserves to be on this list, man. He didn't do anything to.
Should we have the chat chime in?
What do you guys think?
Who do you guys think should be number 22? We got Bo Atkinson, Quay Russaw, Isaiah West. Like I have Chris Henry Jr. in my top 22. So like if Chris or Brock want to be on there for you, the reason I went with Chris over Brock is like we've heard great things about them both. Chris, we've seen him more, right? Like we saw it in the spring game way louder than it was with Brock Boyd. So it's like that's a bit more tangible there. So I don't know. Maybe someone likes Josh Padilla, wants to put him on the list if they think he's healthy. I think if Josh Padilla is healthy, he's got a point. Buckeye Ryan says Isaiah West.
Yeah, we've also reached the point with Chris Henry Jr. where it's like there's an element to like Brock has really impressed us and Brock has really surprised us, but then it's I think
so. The Buckeye Talk podcast says that Isaiah West should be at 22.
Wait, that guy's also sponsored by Modelo?
I don't think
yeah. We have a lot.
Very smart. I don't think that.
Yeah.
And we have something here. Cameron Myers is saying that Isaiah West is the best running back on the team. So
maybe.
So Isaiah West.
Buckeye Ryan has Isaiah West. He's saying Chris Henry Jr. will vault up to the top 15 by midseason.
I agree.
I agree.
I think. Listen, we've already gone 90 minutes, and I don't want to go any longer than that because that's kind of ridiculous.
The comments seem to agree.
Yeah.
Brock Boyd, Chris Henry Jr. are not on this list. I'm pretty sure when we do this again on the bye week, they're going to be on this list. Legend Bay is not currently on this list. Is there a chance he is in a position where he could be on this list come bye week? Absolutely so. Dominic Kelly is not on this list. There is a chance that he could be on this list by the time we get to the midseason. Nate Roberts, Bennett Christian, and Mason Williams are the tight ends that Ryan Day spoke out as if they were going to be the guys who are going to play. That's where the cutoff is. If Nate Roberts is in the top 22 by midseason, I don't think it would be off-putting. I think this is a list that is going to change a lot over the first 8 weeks of the season. I think that top tier might not change a lot unless like you want to talk about Devin Sanchez and Aiden Pierce, but I don't think the top half of the list will have a lot of movement.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this bottom half will definitely have a lot of movement because there's a lot of young guys that seem like they're ready to play, and Ohio State team's ready to play them. So it's going to be an interesting thing to watch over the first 8 weeks of the season, how this list continues to move through time. Andrew is saying, no, Steven, no. What did I do? Did I do something wrong? Oh, Sawyer says we're running 13 personnel again over my dead body. 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Thank you to everybody who showed up today. Hopefully this continues to grow. Thank you for everybody who was active in the chat. This was fun. Hopefully my audio got better. If it didn't, I promise you we will continue to work on this. We love doing this. It's a fun time. It gives us a chance to talk about some big topics and also, go live and try something new here at Buckeye Talk. And we got some fun things coming up down the line here. I think we're going to be doing some live shows here and some pregame action. Some of that stuff is being finalized. So take that with a grain of salt until we get everything figured out. But yeah, we got a Modelo deal. And, thank you to Modelo for sponsoring us this year. And hopefully we can continue to validate you making that decision. No legend on this list yet, Andrew. Let's see where we're at. And I should have never said that on the podcast. Too many people have brought up the fact that I'm not allowed to talk about legends. 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Thank you to everybody in the chat. For Stefan, Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis, I'm Steven Means.